What if the questions that are driving you crazy, that are under your skin, the things that you can't understand, whether it's related to the cruelty of human behavior, why the world's not equal yet, why that one person just keeps judging you no matter what you do to try to dismiss their opinion, or no matter how insecure you can clearly see that they are, their judgment is just bothering you. Well, what if those questions that appear to have no answers are the very answers that we need to create a more equal, compassionate, kind world? And what if you're asking them because you are meant to be a powerful agent of that change? Welcome to Hello, my name is Jenna, and today I'm going to talk to you about some insights that I got last night while watching a movie. And I'm here with you today in my pajamas because I want to again encourage you that you don't have to be on a wellness retreat or in some, you know, synagogue or church to, have powerful spiritual messages come to you. They can come to you while you're watching a movie on Netflix. And I want to encourage you to just open your mind up a little bit to that today. And in my case, a sentence was said that I've heard before a bunch of times. It's very well known, but there was something about how it was said in this movie that I watched last night that hit different. It unlocked something. And maybe that's where you're at today too, where there's a message that you've heard before, but you're ready to receive it in a new way. You've had some experiences, you've had some new insights, and now you're ready to look at something you've heard before differently, powerfully. I was watching Tick Tick Boom on Netflix, starring Andrew Garfield. He plays Johnny Larson, who is the creator behind Rent, the musical. Now, the movie Rent was huge when I was in high school, and I was a nerdy choir kid. So, of course, my friends and I were obsessed with Rent. And I mean, it's one of those like core memories that brings me back to literally dancing to Out Tonight in my room and singing with my friends, literally watching my friends do the tango Maureen in the choir room. And I had no idea until my husband told me that there was a movie made about the writer of Rent. And as soon as I found that out and that it was played by Andrew Garfield, I was like, well, we got to watch this. And so last night I was watching it, and Andrew, who's playing Johnny, is struggling like any creator does. And, this musical that he thinks is going to be his big thing had potential, but it didn't quite land. And his agent says to him, very seriously, I've been in this business a long time, and I'm going to give you some advice. Write what you know. Now, that is the sentence that I've heard tons of times before. I don't even know who the original creator is of that sentence because it's been used so many times, to write what you know. And although I've heard it before, it hit differently. I got some new insights while watching this movie about what knowing means when it comes to creation. And I want to tell you about how you can create what you know, what it really means to have a relationship with this concept of knowing something. We traditionally think of the definition of know as by know I mean KNOW, right? As okay, this is something I've mastered. This is knowledge that I have. This is something I've been through, I clearly understand and can clearly articulate to other people. You know, I know, raise your hand, I know the answer. I know the answer. And especially in the United States, that's how we're conditioned to learn, right? To know means you have a clear, non-debatable answer, right? Like just it's back to that A plus B equals C. I know the answer. Who knows the answer? I don't think that's what our relationship with knowing is meant to be. I think our relationship with knowing means that we have met a certain type of experience. We have met a feeling. We've been introduced to a feeling. We've been introduced to a question. We've been introduced to difficulty, to conflict, to pain, and we're not sure what to do with that experience. I think that's what it means to know something. Think about it in terms of knowing something as if you know another person. You've met them, you've spent some time with them, you've had some experiences with them. But even if it's your partner, even if it's your mother, even if it's your child, your best friend, you don't ever really fully know someone or something, but you've had an experience. You've had some feelings that have gone with that experience, and you can take action with that. As a writer, when I've written about things that I know, really what it was writing about experiences I was having that I didn't really know what to do with. To know is to be vulnerable. That's what it is, to be vulnerable enough to open yourself up to an experience and to try to make sense of it. And I don't mean make sense of it in that there's a clear logical answer. I mean make sense of it in that, okay, what adventure are we meant to go on together? To grab that experience by the hand and jump. When I wrote my book, Sheltered, part of the motivation for that was my experience with the justice system. I had experienced sexual assault and reported it, went as far as to report it right away and went through this incredibly traumatizing experience where I had to relive my experience over and over again. First with this detective, then with that investigator, then with the attorney assigned to the case. Then, only to be told, well, the guy who did it is telling a different story. So then to be told that the person who assaulted me is saying I'm lying and I was on drugs and all this stuff, which wasn't true, being told that and then having to contradict it only to get to a point where it's like, okay, well, he's willing to plead guilty to, basically what was a lesser charge, but he'll serve the same amount of time. He just won't have that official criminal tag on it for this particular thing. And I suggest you take it because if you go to trial with this, the jury might judge you and make a decision based on that. They might not even really take your story seriously. Their human bias will come into play and they might just reject your story because of the shoes you're wearing or your hair or whatever it is. And I was kind of talked out of, allowing this person to be convicted of what they actually did. And I went with it because by then I was exhausted. I didn't want to talk about it anymore. It was horrifying. And as I was writing Sheltered, I realized that I knew something about the justice system and sexual assault. I knew something about the mindset of a sexual assault victim. And then it came to me that this sexual assault was not the first time that I experienced it. It began when I was 12 with my peers assaulting me in class in on church trips. And because of how women my age, 38, were conditioned to kind of accept male attention and weren't taught how to say no and were kind of taught that, yeah, you should be desired for your body. Why would you reject that? That's what you're worth. And I'm talking about the cultural conditioning. I realized I'm like, oh, I know something about this. I don't have it all figured out, but what I do know is that it's bullshit. I know that it hurts. I know that it's wrong. All of it. I know that it's wrong. I know that women and girls shouldn't be taught that attention is the best they can attain in whatever form. Women and girls should not be assaulted. Victims shouldn't be re-traumatized over and over again, telling their story over and over again, only to be told at the end of it that it would just be easier for everyone if I agreed to a lesser conviction because I might be judged later. I knew that was wrong. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know what a better world would look like yet. All I knew is that this one wasn't working and it wasn't right. And so that was a core theme of my book, Sheltered, that one of the main characters is going through this assault and being told a lot of the things that I was being told. I realized I'm like, I need to tell this story because stories change and shape things. And so if I put this story out there, maybe it will resonate with somebody else. And then together we can come up with a creative, collective way to move forward. Because all of you out there have such amazing creative capacities. You are capable of remarkable things. And when we study the remarkable things that other people have done, because to write a story about your assault in a way that creates change and awareness around an issue, that is remarkable. When we study the remarkable works of other people, it triggers the remarkable in us. And then we can start building something together. This is what it means to know something. It means to have an experience with it. It means to be bothered by it. It means that you want to take some sort of action, even if you don't know what that action looks like. And this is exactly what happened in the Tick, Tick, Boom story, which, from what I understand, was based pretty directly on Johnny Larson's life. And you can see echoes of that in the musical Rent. He had gay friends who were being discriminated against and blamed, for having AIDS. He was looking at the AIDS crisis that was happening at the time and going, hey, keep getting sick. People keep getting discriminated against. Something's wrong. And he asked a question in this movie that I can absolutely relate to, which is, why does it take a catastrophe for change to happen? That's something that's always bothered me too. Why does something horrible have to happen before people do something? Why can't we get out in front of it? What's missing? And I felt seen because this artist who I've never even met, as played by Andrew Garfield, asked some of the same questions that I'm asking. And so then I didn't feel so alone. And then I was given some new insights just by him sharing his question. And the movie actually ends where he's talking to his ex-girlfriend, after his musical that he thought was going to be his big break didn't really catch fire like he wanted it to. And she gave him this blank, notebook, this blank place for him to write some new music and a new story. And she said, well, do you know what you're going to do next? And he said, I've got a lot of questions. And she says, that sounds like a wonderful place to start. And then he wrote Rent. My friends, this is the message that I need to hear today, is that your questions, the things that are bothering you, the experiences that you've met but haven't figured out might be the thing that's calling you to create powerful change. And we have to change our relationship with the journey, because I can relate. We've all, especially in the United States, been conditioned to just get there, meaning let's just get to being done. Let's just achieve this. Let's just get to the next grade. Let's just get to the next meeting. Let's just get to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so many of us have been forced to numb ourselves to our experiences so we can be cogs in the corporate machines, that we've lost our vulnerability and we see the journey as something annoying that we have to get through, rather than this beautiful experience of being vulnerable and opening ourselves up to our own creative capacity and the connections we can have with other people. This is something that clicked for me today because I can relate. I'm a high performer. I'm a high achiever. I just want to get to the next thing. So I feel you out there if that's you. And so I had to ask myself, what do I need to do to change my relationship with the journey of becoming, of understanding, so that it doesn't just feel like a drag, so that it doesn't just feel like something I have to get through, because then when I get through this and I get there, then I'll be happy. How can I change my relationship with the journey? And really what it is all about being vulnerable. It's about opening yourself up to engaging with your experiences, to bringing your attention to your experiences. That's what I talked in my last episode about with breakthrough. The minute that you drop even just one of the things that you're doing to numb or distract yourself, the minute that you kind of let that go and open yourself to the thing that's been calling you, or the question that you've been asking yourself, is also the moment that you are really living, that you can experience powerful connection. Because when you find that you connect with someone, even if it's someone who has passed away, because Johnny Larson passed away in the 90s, and I was connecting with him via how he was played by Andrew Garfield, but it was still a connection. When you connect with someone, that click, that connection is powerful. You feel alive. You feel inspired. That's what living is to connect. When you can share a genuine insight with your partner that might be a little bit scary to share, but you're so excited about it that you can tell them, hey, this is what I dreamed about. This is what I want to do. This is what I think this experience means. That's what living is. That's what human beings want, is to connect. And connection is powerful. It's powerful for you in your day to day. But then when we practice and we flex our muscles with this regular path of just connecting, well, then we can build something together. And this is where my story Daenerys comes into play that I wrote. I talked about it in the last episode, and I'm going to talk about it again because I know there's people out there who need to read it. Arya Stark is in my story, and she has this dragon glass weapon that she used to kill the Night King and end that evil, but she was traumatized by the experience. She also felt really outcast because she felt like she couldn't relate to people anymore after having this experience. She felt like there was really no place for her gifts. So she went to Dragonstone. I had her go to the very island where dragons used to roam. And as she saw it at first, it was this desolate place, but something deep in her was calling her. Quick pause button. What is that for you? What is a place that might seem like a desert for you, that might seem desolate, that might seem like it's past its quote unquote glory days, that might be calling you? Because perhaps that barren place is calling you because you're meant to build something there. Arya Stark in my story went to this island because all she knew at that time was that she wasn't connecting with anybody in her immediate environment. All she knew at that time was she had pain and disgust that she needed to lift and clear and compost. That's all she knew. She had met grief. She had met trauma. She had met loneliness. She knew them as acquaintances. She wasn't yet aware of how to quote unquote master them. She'd met them. All she knew was that she didn't fit in here, but that she wanted to fit in somewhere. All she knew is that she needed to do something with the hands that survived this trauma and saved the world in many ways. She needed to do something with them after. And so she just starts building. She turns the weapon that she used to save the world into a foundation for a new one. But she didn't know it at the time. When you take time to address the feelings that you have and the questions that you're asking yourself, that is a powerful first step to building something. And my friends, most often, you don't know what you're building. All the people who've done great things did not know at the time that they were building great things that would change and connect the world for the better. Johnny Larson had a vision, he had questions, but he had no idea that rent would take off the way that it did. What it would do for the art scene, what it would do for equality, what it would do for awareness about healthcare. He had no idea. He had questions, and he just started building, even though he didn't have all the answers. That's what we need to do. And the story of Daenerys, before Arya knows it, she's built this castle and she's drawn in powerful figures to help her. Drogon, the dragon, she called in a dragon, this ancient, powerful force, simply because she paid attention to her own trauma, her own grief, her own anger, her own weapons, and she started building. She drew in the queen herself, Daenerys. She drew in her brother, Bran. She brought her family back to her. This is an example that we can follow. We just have to start building. To know something. To know something well enough to create it maybe just might mean you have a question about it. You have an experience with it. And maybe you know that there was something about that experience that was unjust. Or maybe it was a good experience. Maybe you've experienced a powerful connection. You've been a part of a group that really knew how to communicate and support each other. Maybe it's time for you to start building that on a larger scale. Maybe it's time for you to share that gift, or maybe it's time for you to invite that person that you've been meaning to invite that you know needs to be a part of this group. Maybe for you, this knowing that you have connection is about inviting that person you've been thinking about. To know something well enough to create something with it is to have an experience with it, to have questions about it. That's what it means to know something. It doesn't mean you're a master. It doesn't mean that you wear this mask of perfect perfectionism. It means that you have questions. It means that you're willing to engage in the messy process of nurturing something. Because, my friends, to nurture something, to grow something is messy. It's supposed to be that way. It's the only way that growth can occur. And this is also for you parents out there, because I know you parents carry a lot of guilt. I do too, about messy parenting. But messy parenting is genuine parenting. Think about all the people you know who put masks on themselves and masks on their kids. Is that really what a healthy, well-adjusted world looks like? Or does it look like people who are genuinely learning and growing together? To know is to engage with your questions. It's to begin before you know what you've built. It's to connect. To truly live is to connect in a vulnerable way. And your insights can come to you at any time once you start to open yourself up to your own vulnerability, to your own questions, to your own truth. The creativity of other people starts coming to you. Again, I was watching this movie at the end of a long, busy day on a Saturday night, and it unlocked something in me. The creators who've come before us can speak to us, and they often do, if we're open to receive it. If we're open to accept their wisdom and to use their help to be inspired by what they've done and realize we can do it too. And so I invite you to do that today. I invite you to accept the truth that you might know more than you think you do, and that knowing is not necessarily about mastering. It's about engaging with your questions. It's about picking up your hammer and trying to build a foundation without knowing what the final product is going to look like. And I can tell you, as a creator, as a writer, the journey is beautiful. I never know how my stories are going to end when I start them. But I always love how they do end, because as I write them, I have new experiences. I meet new people. I hear new things. I read new books. I gain new knowledge. And all of that feeds into this story that I'm building. So that's the beauty of it too. Resources, insights, gifts are going to come to you when you start. Things you never imagined, but things that will make a pretty beautiful and powerful final product that will then inspire you about how to build the next one. That is the beauty of the journey, is that when you engage with the knowledge that you've met, the feelings that you've met, it introduces you to friends. It's like engaging with feelings and knowledge is kind of like engaging with their friends, meaning like, oh, I have this feeling of pain. Well, let me introduce you to recovery. Okay, well, I have this feeling of feeling happy. Let me introduce you to joy. That's kind of how it works when you engage with things. It introduces you and opens you up to new experiences. And that's what really living is. It's being open and receptive to the gifts that can come to you along the way. And I haven't even touched on who you become in the process, but I think you can begin to imagine. When you open yourself up to life in this way, you connect yourself with your own divinity again. You remember who you are. You remember your power. You remember your beauty as defined by your terms, not the terms of the people who want you to buy things and change yourself. You remember what beauty means to you. You see beauty in yourself in a way you never have before. That's what opening to these kinds of gifts does. And I invite you to do that today. And a good start, too, to helping others to do the same is to share this episode. So please do. But in the meantime, I'm grateful for you, and thanks for coming.